Today I want to talk about an algorithm change that happened the last few months that is having an impact on how we can evangelize about certain things. You know, this topic isn't just for those who do put videos on YouTube. It's also for everybody who's in the Christian body, that you become aware of the developments that are happening as we are in the last days. That you are getting to see one of the ways that there is an oppression, a difficulty that is causing blocks to preaching the word, blocks to educating those in the body about essential principles of faith, essential principles in order to endure to the end in the race. Now, this algorithm I'm talking about is something that YouTube uses in how it treats videos that we post. Now, the algorithm looks at many different things, but the main thing that I'm covering is how it censors and treats videos containing certain words. This came into place for a good cause, because in early 2017 there were some players, and they caused YouTube to lose advertisers. And because of this, YouTube looked to ways to try to stop that and make it a place that the advertisers would feel confident putting their brands. And the problem that was happening is that some creators were having videos that had words that are not family friendly, content that's not family friendly. And so, because so many people upload videos and have channels, is just not something that human beings could filter out. That's why it was a job for the computer. Now, of course, when you deal with this, when you deal with something that's a computer generated and computer analyzed algorithm, there's going to be a lot of error, particularly in the beginning. And that's exactly what happened. A lot of channels, and it doesn't just deal with the Christian, just all across the board, have found that their videos were, and continue to be, some of them treated as if having that content, and so they're not shown. You don't know, though. You don't know unless you put yourself inside this mode that's called restricted mode. In fact, you may not realize, if you have posted videos, that some of your videos are being filtered, because you only know if you have chosen to activate, turn on this filtering on your particular channel. As you browse on that particular browser, it will then work to show you only the videos that the algorithm has determined are family safe, kid friendly. Well, of course, what's happening is that videos that are family friendly, that are kid safe, because they have words that may seem to be, they're getting wrongly filtered. And it's happening, like I said, not just to Christian channels, but all across the board. But in the Christian category, I found myself that when I discovered this restricted mode, I've discovered that several of my videos were unfairly categorized as that, based on words that had to do with the spiritual that we're in, anything that had to do with anything had to do that had to do with being in Christ. Now, some of my videos that would have words that contained things having to do with or anything measure at all whatsoever that had to do with anything that, although they were only biblical, the algorithm was determining it had to do with the kind of content of that it filters that is based on actual earth, because it has, of which it didn't. I learned, though, that there's an appeal process, and many of my videos were restored, but a handful were not. And this some people have run into as well. And the appeal process involves using human beings. So why some were and why some were not? Well, that has to do with the darts of the... And because this is the way it is, and because this really is biblical in the last days, it's going to be harder to walk in the faith and to follow the Great Commission and to preach it, because the oppression is going to get harder. It's going to be more difficult. It's going to be dangerous, as it already has been for people overseas who have had a lot of difficulties in preaching the good news, even just being a believer. This is why you may have noticed, if you've been with me, I used to call myself in Christ, because many years ago, when I first began this walk, I actually had a dream that Jesus came to me and he sang a song as he strode in front of me, where he was calling me in Christ. And because of that, that's what made me use it. I wanted to live up to that mandate. I wanted to fulfill that dream that I had gotten with him. And it led me to write a song that I was using as a theme for my channel, called Because I Wanted to Wage the Good, Be a Good Soul. And it was really not a problem until this algorithm. And again, that was also not an issue until I discovered that you may not get a fair shake in the appeal. And a lot of the work that you may have done, it doesn't do what you had intended it to do. In fact, even having some of your videos labeled as by the algorithm can cause your traffic to even be lessened in other videos. So because we know that we are and that we, not against, but against rulers and principalities of darkness, like any, it's a time to sit down and strategize and to find a way around the wiles. And you're seeing the result. So one thing I had to do, I had to stop using that name in Christ. And I learned this algorithm also analyzes the tags that you may use for your video, what you put in the description and what you put in the title. Even something that you may say is not in your video, if you just use it, doesn't have the human capacity to see what you're saying. So you could say, my video is not about, it doesn't contain any, and it has no, but the fact that you have even existing in your description typed, may get that algorithm to determine your video and has content, and it is banned. It is not shown to a young audience, as well as adults who are at a workplace that have put in place filters to block content also will not see it. What they will see if they click on your video from an outside source, this video is in mode and it can't be seen. And in addition, the comments also can't be seen. Now you may be making videos and you may not even know that there may be a portion of your own videos that are also not being shown. The thing is that as the creator, because that's what YouTube calls those who make videos, when you're in your dashboard and when you yourself are looking at your videos, you'll be able to see everything unless you have yourself turned on this filter. Now, this filter is on the bottom of the pages. It doesn't show up on every page. It used to be more accessible, but it's gotten restricted more that I myself can only find it on a certain page of my dashboard. You scroll down to the very bottom of the screen and you will see where you have the links to your history. You'll see turn restricted mode on or off. Now the way you can tell if your videos are in restricted mode or not, you can turn on this restricted mode, go back to your channel page, go to your uploads and see if all your videos are appearing. Do a count before you do it how many videos that you have. Then when you turn on this restricted mode, go back and see if you have the same number. You may find they're all there. You may find 3 are missing, 7 are missing, and so on. And then that's when you can go back and print out the page and compare the thumbnails to see which ones are missing, which one of your videos may have fallen into this filter. Then your next step would be to submit an appeal for them to YouTube to take them out of this filter. If they don't have any of the different things that this filter is put in place for, as I said, it has to do with and other content. But you may or may not get the results you hope for. So the issue in this video is, what are we to do? What are Christians to do to teach about spiritual, to help people walk wearing on the of God? How are we to do this? When this can happen, you can put a lot of work into a video and you can find it's not being shown whatsoever. You may not even get it taken out. So the point is to avoid it getting there in the first place. That's how you deal with it. The point of how we deal with this is to do what you can ahead of time, knowing what can trigger it, to do your best that it doesn't go there, and yet find a creative way to continue on dealing with the subject. So first thing you do is you make sure in your tags, your description, in your title, you don't use any of the words, whether you're saying something about it in either way, you don't, because this is one way. The words you choose when you speak, you also have to be careful. You have to be careful when you use words. If you are evangelizing about Christian marriage, some of the Christian channels have had their videos filtered because they were speaking in some ways having to do with immorality or having to do with anything dealing with that topic. And so you have to find other ways to say that word, to express that word, realizing that saying anything dealing with that word can involve censorship. In my case, I'm dealing with exposing the exposing the wiles of the devil and teaching about spiritual, as well as touching on waging the good and all the scriptures surrounding it. So I have to now, and I've eliminated putting my song in the beginning because, this has words being sung there that can be triggering the algorithm. As well as I've had to give up using the title in Christ, because as the title, there wasn't any way that I could take it out. And now I've come up with something. At first I thought, okay, I'm going to use flashcards for when I want to use some of those words. For instance, here they are. This can do it. These words that you see here. Anything that it can determine or think has to do. It doesn't matter. These are words that are part of biblical truths, biblical strategies, things having to do with the Lord, things that can have absolutely nothing at all. Well, this over here, unfortunately, is what my example for. This here is what is getting photography channels having their videos go when they're talking about lenses that have to do with the word stop. This is getting them thrown because it's perceiving this, which is by itself in some ways a word, but it's not when it has to do with the topic of photography. And this is what this is about. That there are words that are fundamental to the Christian faith that have to do with Christianity, have to do with the Bible topics. They are not words, but in other contexts outside of the Christian faith, they to the algorithm are on the no list because it's banning things that have to do that may have anything to do with, and it has decided that anything having to do with might be it. So this makes it challenging. Though I have all these things, it's not practical for me to sit here and try to sort through all the cards and put them up at the right time. I would have to write a script every time I wanted to talk. I'd have to rehearse. I would have to have everything, I have to be able to thumb through them and get them up at the right time. Well, it's not practical. It's not practical. So what I'm considering doing on my end is, of course, there's nothing to do with stopping, because see, we are not against the seen world, but against the unseen world. And so it involves having to get creative. And as you see, the way I'm getting creative is I'm myself on some of these subjects, on some of these words, in order to talk about some of these topics. I'm just going to have to make use of a index card, a virtual index card, and just put the name up on the screen rather than say it. Because you can't even, besides the tags and the description and the titles, closed caption. If you have any words there that it perceives to be anything that could be on those content that it filters out, it can perceive that. And if it censors your video, as I said, it can be iffy if you get it back. If you get it back. Welcome to the last days. Welcome to the last days hardship, blocks, oppression that are just going to get harder. It's not going to get easier. it's going to get harder for us in practicing our faith, sharing our faith. One approach is just go ahead and do it, and hopefully your video will not be filtered. However, just because it's not filtered right off doesn't mean you're safe. I have found sometimes a video can do well for 1, 2, or 3 months, and then it can fall and be filtered at that point. So here we are, and this is a problem that we have come to in a place in what used to be a platform without these issues. But see, this is a development, and so I wanted to share what's going on, why I no longer use that name, and why you may see me sometimes not saying these actual words, but showing them on the screen, because it has to do with this algorithm. One thing that we should now make habit of is that keep track of all the videos that you make, and every once in a while turn on that filter and check to see if any of them have become put into that filter. And the first step is to request for it to be appealed, and there's a form on that you can use, but also realize it may not be released, and get creative about that. You can try to remake a new video. You can try to analyze why that filter did it in the first place, and perhaps you do have content that may not be suitable, and so you have to accept that it's not going to be shown to young children, and some adults that are in places where these filters are put in place will not see them, and so your traffic may be reduced. In fact, it may even appear to be stopped on those particular videos. Or you can remake, or if that's not the case and you feel that it's an unfair analysis and your appeal's not being received, you can remake the same content, making sure to keep out anything that you believe may have triggered that algorithm in the first place, and go on from there. And just realize that this is it just may be harder, and it's not going to get easier, but we are to forge ahead. We're to forge ahead because we're in for souls.